Good evening, everyone, on this absolutely ridiculously freezing cold night, and welcome to Ask Leah for this week. I want to start off this week by saying a huge thank you to everyone who nominated for this year's Step Up Professional Development Award. We had almost 30 applicants this year, and I tell you, I have my work cut out for me picking a winner because there are some absolutely incredible nominations from right across Gippsland, male, female, some in voluntary work, some in paid work, some not in work at the moment. So it will be up to me, my fabulous virtual assistant, and a panel that includes two other people to come up with our selection of winners. Now, this year I will be doing what I've done in previous years. I certainly don't advertise this, but what I do is I actually award a winner who wins the grand prize of the Step Up Award, but there's usually a couple that I can't separate. So I will be offering a few other people some tickets to my upcoming effective communication workshop, Developing Assertiveness for Personal and Career Success, which is coming up on the 26th of June in Warragul. It's a day workshop from 9 till 3:30. Early bird tickets end this Friday, so get in quick if you would like to get a reduced price ticket to that workshop, and I'm really looking forward to it. Tonight, I have a really serious topic to cover. It's one that I've covered before, and it's sad how often I get messages about this topic, but I'm going to go there again, and it's bullying, workplace bullying, which is horrendous to experience. But the person who contacted me this week was after some advice on what to do. They've raised some bullying behaviour in their workplace with management multiple times, and no action's been taken because this person has been in the organisation a long time. They're actually quite good at their job, and the person who contacted me seems to think that it's kind of been put in the too hard basket by the other senior managers, and it's just not being addressed. And they've come to me and said, what do I do now? And so I'm going to give some advice tonight on what you can do, but I'm also going to read you some of the legislation, because it's really important to know where you stand legally and what the official formal advice is, as well as what the advice I can give you from a difficult conversation communications perspective. I think it's really important that you have the balance there. Hi, Tracy, welcome. So, what is bullying? It's really important to understand what it is and isn't in the workplace. I come across both through my work. I'm brought into organisations to help where there are accusations of serious bullying, but I'm also brought into organisations sometimes where someone's accused someone of bullying, and when you get down to it, it's actually not bullying in the real definition. It may be a decision that someone didn't like, or something that's happened around performance management. The case that this person's come to me about does appear to be bullying. So what actually is it? So let me just quickly read you from the Fair Work Commission, what workplace bullying is defined as. So it's a person or a group of people repeatedly behaves unreasonably towards a worker or a group of workers at work, and the behaviour creates a risk to health and safety. Bullying does not include reasonable management action carried out in a reasonable manner. Bloody hell, that's vague, isn't it? Okay, so let's give you some examples of what bullying behaviour might look like. It can be aggressive and intimidating conduct, belittling and humiliating comments, spreading malicious rumours, teasing practical jokes or initiation ceremonies, which hopefully are outdated and not happening, but we know in some workplaces they still do. Exclusion from work-related events, unreasonable work expectations, including too much or too little work, or work beyond your capacity or skill level, displaying offensive material, or pressure to behave in an inappropriate manner. However, this is key. In order for it to be bullying, the behavior must be repeated. So it's not just a one-off, it's repeated and unreasonable and must create a risk to health and safety. So you've got to be careful when you throw the word bullying around and make sure that that's actually what's happening. Now, that doesn't mean that you still don't raise the issue with management if it's unreasonable but not repeated. Yeah, absolutely. Some people do horrendous things in the workplace and it might not be repeated, but it still has to be addressed. But just you need to be careful of what you call bullying and what you don't. Okay, so this you've raised with management a couple of times. You now have some questions to ask yourself on whether you take further action or not. You've got a few options. I'm going to, in a sec, give you some advice on how you could raise this with management again and maybe have some better luck. This approach that I'll suggest has had success with someone else I've coached in this space recently. However, you also need to question if you feel that management, it's not worth going back to management and they're not going to take any further action. You might want to get your union involved if you've got a union in your workplace. You might also want to look at reporting it to the Fair Work Commission. Now, again, this is a tough one because obviously this is really escalating things, and I'm not telling you not to do that because in some cases that's absolutely what needs to happen. You need to stand your ground and report this. But again, there's no right or wrong. This really is your call here. And I know that makes it really hard because sometimes we just want someone to tell us what to do. But I'm not in your situation. I'm not in your workplace. So this really does come down to a personal choice. And I suppose some of the things to consider are they doing it to other people? Do you think that this is behavior that you're a pretty strong person because you've raised it a few times and now you're asking what to do next? So that tells me that, you're quite a strong person and looking at the options here. Maybe if this person bullied someone else, they wouldn't be strong enough. So maybe you do want to take action and take it to the Fair Work Commission. Maybe you don't. If you decide you want to raise it with management again, how can you do that with having a better chance of getting it through? As always, the success is in doing the thinking first. So you've raised it a few times and we haven't gone into detail on how you've done that. But I'd suggest a bit of a different approach this time. And I want you to do the thinking around the impact that the bullying has in your workplace, not only on you, but on the wider team. So if it's not just you who's bearing the brunt of this, if they're behaving in this bullying manner to multiple staff, you might want to think about what it's costing your workplace in terms of sick leave, stress leave, productivity, turnover of staff if people are actually leaving because this behaviour is going unchecked. Is it creating an environment where other people are behaving poorly as well because they're seeing that management's not picking this up? And so they're thinking, well, throw good behaviour out. We can just be cowboys here and do whatever the hell we want. You want to get really clear on what this person's bullying behaviour is costing the organisation. Because when you go back to management, you don't want it to just be a conversation about this person's bullying me and it's having an impact on me. Now, of course, in normal situations, that should be enough. It should be enough for management to look at it and go, you know what, on the evidence, we think there is bullying, we need to address this. But that hasn't happened, okay? You've raised it a few times and nothing's been done. So this time you're being different. You're going in and sitting down with management and saying, look, I've spoken to you about this before and nothing's been done to address it. Bit of empathy here for management. You might say, look, I know this is a difficult situation. I know they've been here a really long time and I know they do good work. However, my concern is that the longer this behaviour goes unchecked, the more it becomes normalised. It's having an impact on staff. we've had this many people off work on sick leave because they're under that stress of this person's behavior. It's impacting our productivity. It's impacting morale, which is therefore impacting the service we give clients when they walk in the door, because we are all down and flat because it's having such a big impact on us. It's impacting our productivity. So it's actually this one person's bullying behavior is impacting the bottom line of our organisation. And my concern isn't just for my health and well-being, but for the health and well-being of my colleagues and for the financial success and reputation of our organisation. Suddenly you're presenting this as a much bigger issue. You're really highlighting the real cost of leaving this behavior unchecked. And you're doing it in a way where you've stripped a lot of the emotion out. So this is why you've got to do the thinking first, so you can really present the case in a fair, balanced, reasonable way. Here's the key part though. You don't want to just have this conversation and walk away, leaving it up to management again to potentially do nothing. So what I want you to do before you have this conversation is to think about what outcome you actually want. Not what problem do I face? We know what the problem is. What outcome do you want from this? And you actually want to put that on the table to management. You know what? I've raised this a few times now and nothing's been addressed. What I really need from you now is to have a conversation with this person, whatever it is for you, but you need to tell them what you want to see. And then if you do feel that you need to take further action, you potentially want to tell them that. Now, again, there's no right or wrong here. You do have to be careful. This isn't an idle threat. You're not threatening, well, I'm going to go to the union or I'm going to do this if you don't tell her. But you might say to them, look, I'm really putting I'm putting this in your hands now as management, and I really hope that you can take action. Again, that definition of bullying that I gave and what it looks like and what it means in the law, you might want to bring that into it. Again, not in an accusatory way, but you might say to management, look, I've looked up the definition of workplace bullying and I can demonstrate that this actually is breaking the law and I don't want our organisation to be in trouble. However, it's getting to a point where if this isn't addressed, I may need to take it further because I'm really worried about my health and well-being. You might want to go down that track, you might not. If you raise this again in this really fair, balanced, reasonable way, explaining what you need from them, and they take no action again, then you have a decision. One, do you want to take it to Fair Work or the union or escalate it more? Two, do you just put up with it? Three, do you leave your organisation and find a job elsewhere? Now, I know what some of you will be thinking, and hello to those who have just joined. Some of you will be thinking, that's bullshit, Leah. Why should I have to leave my organisation when they're the person doing the bullying? Totally agree. I completely agree. However, your health and well-being is our top priority. And if your management is not taking it further, even though you've addressed it in this most reasonable way, if you are not prepared to take it and escalate it further, and I'm not making a judgment there, there's no right or wrong. You know, yes, some people would argue you should take it further so they don't do it to someone else. There's absolutely arguments for that, but I understand we're all human. We all have different capabilities and things that we're comfortable with, okay? So sometimes the decision, if you work for an organisation that's going to let this behaviour go and you're not going to get the support, is that really an organisation that operates in line with your values? Is that reflective of the sort of organisation you want to be in? And I'm not saying you just quit on the spot and walk out the door. I get that we have financial obligations, but maybe you look for somewhere else to work. Like I said at the start of this video, unfortunately, this topic comes up way more than it should. And I suppose it really does frighten me a bit how often I am getting private messages to Ask Leah on this topic. And I'm not saying stop, because I understand that any advice or support I can give people is hugely important. But if you are out there and you are in leadership in an organization, you need to learn how to have difficult conversations, because this sort of behavior cannot be left unchecked and it cannot be left to escalate. When we avoid difficult conversations, when we avoid conflict, it doesn't disappear, it just grows. And this organization, where the management is avoiding a difficult conversation with one person, may cost them their reputation, it may cost them multiple other staff, it may cost them clients. That's not a cost that you want to take, not just because it's a cost, but it's not the right thing to do either. So that's it from me tonight. It is a big topic, and I know I've only just scratched the surface, but hopefully I've given some advice to that person, and I really wish you all the best. Today, big hello to anyone who was in the ladder workshop today. Today I ran my self-doubt workshop, Shut the Hell Up, with about 20 participants in the ladder program in Morwell, or about 15 participants and some of the staff there. Self-doubt is something we all experience, and as I said to the group today, what sets us apart is how we deal with it. And one of the tips that I gave that I want to end with tonight is the importance of understanding that self-doubt is normal. We all experience it, and what we need to do, one of the things we can do, is to look at it more objectively. Now, some people say to me, how the hell do you do that, Leah? How do you get objective about your self-doubt? Here's a really simple tip. When that little voice kicks in for you and says, who do you think you are? Am I good enough, smart enough to do that? I want you to think to yourself, would I say this to a friend? And it's usually a great way of checking if you're objective or not, because if, like me, you are way nicer to your friends than you are to yourself. If a friend was thinking of going for the job, okay, maybe they've got some experience, but they're a bit nervous. Should I go for the job or not? If your self-doubt is going, nah, don't bother applying, Leah. You're not going to get it anyway. There's no point. Don't even bother. If a friend was going for the job, would you say that to them? Because chances are you wouldn't say, nah, mate, don't apply, your shit. No, we wouldn't say that to a friend, so don't say it to yourself. Steve Maraboli, US speaker, has this great quote, and he says, the most powerful relationship we will ever have is the relationship we have with ourselves. And it's so true. So to help you overcome your self-doubt, there's a whole heap of tips and tricks, but that's just one of them. So I wish you luck, folks. For those of you who are looking for help with your communication and developing your assertiveness to be able to have difficult conversations in the workplace, maybe be less passive, or on the flip, less aggressive. If you want to be able to learn how to strike that balanced middle ground of assertiveness, I do have a public workshop coming up in Warragul on Wednesday, the 26th of June from 9 till 3:30. Early bird tickets end this Saturday. Jump on my website or Facebook page to check it out. It's going to be a cracking great workshop. There's enough tickets sold already, so it definitely will be going ahead. And I look forward to seeing some of you there. Have a great night. Stay warm, people. It is absolutely freezing. And here comes my door and one of my children. So a big hello and goodbye from two children tonight. Hi. What a way to end the episode. Good night from Callum and Sam. Bye. Cheers, everyone. Have a great night. Bye.